I had never imagined that such incidents would happen in my life. When we shifted to the new house, the first 2 to 3 days went by fine, but then I started experiencing some strange fever. At first, I tried to ignore it thinking it was my fault, but when the matter became so serious, I started believing that something was really happening to me. But wait, let me start from the beginning. When we shifted to that house, the first 2 to 3 days were spent in setting up the stuff, and I was so tired that I would fall on the bed and my eyes would close. That day too, I fell on the bed in the same way with a tired body, and as soon as I fell, I could not sleep. In my sleep, I felt as if someone was jumping on my feet. I thought my sister was jumping on my feet mischievously. I scolded her loudly without opening my eyes and turned over and went back to sleep. After a few minutes, the same thing happened to me again. I got up in irritation, but seeing this was a test of my courage. There was no one in the room. Just as I had woken up suddenly. No one could go out that quickly without being seen by me. Moreover, in this situation, the door of the room was also in front of me. A thought came to my mind that maybe my sister had gone silent in the room. I got up and searched the whole room, but there was no one in the room. I dismissed the questions arising in my mind as my misconception and came out of the room combing my hair with my hands. After coming out, I got another shock when Abu Yan sitting in the courtyard told me. I had gone to the market with my mother. I knew that she had to go to the market to buy a school bag. To satisfy myself, I asked my father when she had gone. It had been half an hour since she had left. Hearing father's answer, I was convinced that there was no less girl who played pranks on me and there was no such difference at home. This way such an act can be expected. Both my brothers are elder to us. Nawaz Bai is in Canada with a district job. Younger brother is Faraz. But he is a person who is always busy. He is never free from anyone and he can never do such an act. Anyway, I dismissed this thought from my mind and got busy with household chores, but then such incidents became a daily routine with me. If I was working in the kitchen, I would feel something near my push. I would turn around and see that there was nothing unusual there. Sometimes I would put all the utensils on the shelf and go to deliver something, and when I returned, 1 or 2 of those utensils would be back in their place. I would be surprised, but then I would shake this thought out of my mind thinking that maybe I had forgotten. Otherwise, how can a utensil go from one place to another on its own? Surat. The situation was that no such incident had ever happened with anyone except me. When I made a cursory comment to my sister once or twice, she too dismissed the conversation as my misconception. But she too realized that something was really being served to me. Oh, I know, I was cooking in the kitchen. Gudia has returned from school. I swear I am feeling very hungry. Give me something to eat immediately. I smiled and looked at her sad face. She was standing in the kitchen door. She had not even taken off her uniform. You take off your uniform. I will make some sandwiches with tea in the meantime. Then after a while you can have dinner with everyone. I knew that she would not be able to bear hunger at all, so I told her not to eat anything. After sending it, I quickly put water for tea on the other stove. And I started making sandwiches for him. When I turned after making sandwiches, I saw Gudia peeking into the kitchen. Her mouth was open in surprise. I asked her in surprise, "What happened to you? You are the one who is making this stove." She pointed towards the stove with her hand. I also looked there. The stove was off. Although I had lit it myself and kept water for tea, but I proved myself to be crazy and careless in front of her. And he hit his forehead with his hand and said, "I didn't even turn on the stove." I proceeded to light the stove, but I still did not understand the reason for her being surprised. You had just lit the stove, but it stopped turning by itself in front of my eyes. That is why I am surprised how the knob can turn by itself. Gudia had now come close to the burning stove. I did not reply to her and started making tea quietly. She remained silent for a while and then slowly said, "It seems something is really happening to you. Otherwise you cannot cook on the stove like this." I thought she might get scared. I laughed it off, but Gudia realized from then that I have also faced such incomprehensible incidents before. All of that was true, there was no illusion, we were not scared then. Both of us sisters had a common room. After completing her homework at night, Gudia used to listen to stories from me as a matter of course. This was her childhood habit. Firstly, she was 5 years younger than me. Secondly, she was the last child in the house and I loved her a lot. She was still in the 5th grade when I had passed matriculation. I was not allowed to study further, so I started doing household chores and sewing, embroidery, etc. At night I would do embroidery on my or her suits and would tell her stories. That night too, as usual, as soon as she finished packing her bag, she jumped on my bed. Let's start this story. While putting the needle around my neck, she said that she forgot that I was doing embroidery. I moaned as the needle's tip pierced my finger. Oh sorry, Aapi, I did not do it intentionally. I was being like Rohan. So I said, silly girl. I am not teasing you? I said in a choked voice while trying to bear the pain. And keeping the frame in one hand, I pressed the finger with the other hand. The needle had pricked quite intensely. Blood was dripping from the finger. I pressed the finger with the other hand. Gudia was looking at me with a worried face. I was not able to bear the pain in my finger. I got up and applied medicine on it. Gudia, go to sleep today, I am in pain. I will tell you the story tomorrow. Gudia looked at me with a pitiable face, but without saying anything she got down from my bed and went to her own bed. Normally she would not have left so easily. If the pain in my finger stops for a while, then I will definitely tell you the story. I was yearning for her. After listening to me, she played fine. But I was surprised that suddenly the pain in my finger vanished as if it had never happened. How can pain be stopped like this? I had experienced being pricked 2 or 3 times before this. Never before had the pain stopped suddenly like this, and today the tip of the needle had penetrated quite deep inside. I dismissed this as my misconception like before, and she started telling the story to the doll. When the story was over, I switched off the light and came to my bed. At the same time, I started feeling severe pain in my finger. However, for the last half an hour, I was not feeling any pain at all. My mind was unable to solve this problem. That day, I had set up the washing machine since morning. My back had become stiff and tattered after washing clothes all day. But apart from spreading out the washed clothes, there were still some tasks to be done, like bathing and cleaning the floor. My mother is very strict and short-tempered. If even a small task is done against her wishes, she scolds us so much that everyone's rent goes to waste. I was so tired that I forgot about it completely and sat on the floor and started resting against the wall. Unfortunately, my mother came there at that very moment. Seeing me sitting like this with my legs spread on the floor and leaning against the wall, she was furious. She started reciting Balal to me. She kept scolding me for a long time. I did not even try to say anything in my defense because I knew that it would be of no use. When she left after venting out her anger, I once again stood up to finish the rest of the work. Now my heart was hurting along with my body. I did not even see that much work that she had taunted me for being lazy and stealing work. I quietly completed all the work but she went to the terrace. As soon as I got some solitude, tears started rolling down my eyes. My head was bursting with pain. I was feeling sleepy due to tiredness. I was drowsy and it felt like someone was pressing my head gently. It was difficult for me to open my eyes. I thought that Gudia must have come back from school and must be pressing my head out of sympathy. But when I asked her in the evening while getting her homework done why she had pressed my head, she did not even look at me in surprise. I had gone upstairs as soon as I came, but you were fast asleep, so I came back quietly. I did not press your head. I had to tell myself once again that I must have misunderstood. However, at that time I had heartily prayed to the hands that were massaging my head because I got a lot of relief in such excruciating pain, and at that time I really needed someone to massage my head. You just came running and saw how nicely it was raining. I was stitching his shirt when Gudia called out to me from the courtyard. Both of us sisters are crazy about rain. Whenever it rains, we definitely make something good. I packed the things and came out. The tiny drops falling with the cold wind made me happy too. You will make pakodas yourself, right? Gudia said shyly while holding my hand. I smiled and patted him lightly on the head and rushed towards the kitchen to fulfill his request, because I too was feeling like eating pakoras at that time. The mild cold breeze was making the kitchen atmosphere pleasant. It was evening, but it was getting so dark because of the thick dark clouds. As night was just around the corner, I started frying pakoras and Abu Yan also came. Gudia ran to him and said, Abu Yan, you are making pakoras, you two change quickly and come. Abu Yan went inside smiling. She came straight to me. In the meantime, I had taken out the pakoras in a plate. She fell straight towards the blade, but Juhi tried to pick up a pakora from the plate. Somehow the plate fell on the floor and all the pakoras got scattered on the floor. I could see that Gudaya did not even touch the plate. The plate fell on its own.